Good morning. Oh, that's loud. I'm Chrissy Kim, the president of your board of trustees. There we go. Wow, I get a round of applause. Welcome to you, old friends and new, young and seasoned. Let's see. You are an essential part of our celebration today. Whether today is your first or your 1000th Sunday in our midst, we are glad you are here. Whether you join us in person or online, we are stronger because you are with us. We are one people of many beliefs, many origins, sexualities, and genders. We are all growing, all learning, all loved. Just as you are welcome here. As we do each week, and as we begin our gathering, I respectfully acknowledge that I speak to you today from occupied ancestral lands of the Coastal Salish and Puyallup tribal peoples. I pay respect to elders past and present and extend that respect to their descendants and all Indigenous people. We are joining you again today in multi-platform mode. You'll see some of us here in the sanctuary and others zooming in online. For those meeting in person today, we invite you to join us for coffee time following the service. Red mugs are for visitors who would like to chat. Also, for those in person, this facility is equipped with a hearing assistance system. Devices are available at the back table in the sanctuary. Now, I am thrilled to make an announcement, and Michael's going to help me with a slide. That Reverend Crystal Zerfos will be our new minister. Woo-hoo, yeah. So Reverend Crystal's theology centers on divine love, an all-encompassing love from which no person is exempt. Her ministry is dedicated to coming alongside others, sharing in the tender moments of life, encouraging deepening of the spirit, building community, and furthering the cause of liberation for all, and loving as fully as she can. She strives to live her faith out loud and encourages others to do the same. Following a career in social services, she earned her Master's of Divinity at Seattle University School of Theology and Ministry and has served UU congregations in Washington, Oregon, and Alaska. She will also be continuing her ministry with Inland Northwest Unitarian Universalist Community in Spokane, which is a new UU congregation that was formed in 2020. Her first day at TUUC will be August 1st. I know, that's so exciting. We continue to welcome our children back to Religious Exploration Program. Registration forms are available on our website as well as on Sunday mornings at the kiosk in the library and the lobby. As RE continues to grow, we need volunteers to support it. We're currently looking for some RE teachers for fall. If you're interested, please see me or email board@tahomauu.com to sign up. If you are regularly online, consider volunteering to be a host that welcomes people as they enter and supports our online worshipers. Orientation and guidance will be provided. It's an important way to support our ongoing online services on Sundays. We also need a few more people to serve as celebrants. Help support the speakers and ministers who will be providing us with worship until Reverend Crystal begins, and to assist with worship as we go into the fall and transition to having a part-time minister. Training, support, and loud cheers will be freely and happily given to all those that step forward. We are also looking for a few people to serve on the worship committee. Please let me know if you can help us in any way with that. You can also email board@tahomauu.com. As always, details for our upcoming services can be found on our website or in the e-news. Join us next week for our Pride service. And now we will begin our worship.
Thank you, Marianne. That was beautiful. Do not be alone right now. Gather together. Gathering together grows courage in ourselves and in others who see the numbers swelling. It is a small thing, but it is a thing. Right now, it is an important thing. Great sources of wisdom remind us, just because you cannot stem the tide of all hate, it is still right to do the thing you can do. These things add up. Your one thing and my one thing, his one thing and their one thing and her one thing. Together, it becomes a big thing. Do not be alone right now. Do not let me be alone. Any liberation, all liberation, is collective liberation. My freedom is bound with yours and yours with mine inextricably. Let us together cast our lots doing this big thing, bending the moral arc of the universe toward justice. Our chalice lighter this morning is Richard Rhine. Richard is my husband, my muse, my inspiration. And he is the person that supports me in everything I do. If you have a chalice at home or a candle, please go ahead and light your own personal chalice now. And join with me in the words, we light this chalice in deep respect for the mystery and holiness of life, in honor and gratitude for those who have gone before, with love and compassion for those who dwell among us, and with hope and faith for the generations to come. And now, if you would, rise in body or spirit and join us in our gathering song, number 318 in the great book, We Would Be One.
To that high God
Well, now is our time for all ages, so I invite the young and young at heart to join me up front to hear a story. What would happen if there were no more sharks? Join me. You like sharks? Please form an arch to sing our children down to their classrooms. This is the point in our service where we can share in our gifts to support this congregation.
We pause here for a time of generosity. The congregation is sustained and supported by the contributions of our members and friends. There's a basket that we passed around the sanctuary for in-person contributions, and we can also receive your donation via text or through the homepage of our website. Thank you.
Please join in the dedication of the offering. We dedicate ourselves and our offerings to the work of this congregation, weaving a tapestry of love we call community, both within and beyond these walls. Our first reading this morning is Liberation Just Below the Surface. Someone has to be the first one to go. When the seas are stubborn and the ground and the sky are giving us only gray and gloom, someone has to see the spring that's just below the surface. The crocus about to launch, the green in the brown grass, the path that's about to be made clear, the freedom that's calling. After the leap, the leaving behind, the letting go of everything you ever knew and anything it meant to live, it takes a reckless sort of dreaming, a courage you'd usually shrug off, like it belonged to old tales of escape from Egypt or emperors, like it belonged to someone more powerful, more official, someone less filled up with the grocery lists and bills to pay, marriages to manage, and all these justice reports to read. We come to link arms and to claim a call. That is collective believing we can go together and hold each other into the deep in this journey for justice and liberation, trusting we can sing, not just at the end, but the whole way there. Feeling in our bodies this promise of something more beautiful being born. We come to remind each other we were always this brave, that we've had all we need to walk this way the whole time, that we are the ones we've been waiting for to say to each other, let's begin now. Come, let us worship together.
I'm just waiting on the camera to switch for
Our
the
second reading will
for the
be
second
following
reading.
the ancient call. By the celebrant.
There we go. Following an ancient call by Christine Walters Paintner. What if we could listen like the great salmon who goes about its ordinary life when suddenly something shifts? It does not come as a thunderous revelation, but a quiet knowing you have been preparing all your life to trust. The path lived until now no longer satisfies, but the path ahead seems thousands of miles long, and your womb is heavy. There is no refusing this ancient call, and to know ourselves as not alone, but part of generations before us who, like the salmon, share in this inheritance. You now hear only the rush of energy that comes with starting the long return home and the pull in the blood which cannot be ignored. I like to imagine the salmon swimming across the ocean, as if that weren't daunting enough. And after that endless voyage, it must face the mouth of the mighty river. Does she hesitate, even for a moment? Does he want to turn back to less turbulent waters? But there is something ripening in their bellies. Perhaps your list of pressing tasks is still long. Leave it there, fluttering in the breeze, uncrossed, undone, unfinished, to do the only thing you can do, which is to swim, to be carried by the waves and tide, and to know when to let the current carry you and when to fight it with all your strength, and to know even this yes will demand more than you were willing to give. Your life for the new birth, what you think you know, for the ancient call home.
Good morning. It feels good to be here with you this morning on our 4th of July holiday weekend. It's been at least 3 years since I've been in the pulpit, and not to mention even to be at a church in that matter, 3 years of isolation. I have missed this community of fellow seekers respectful of each other's paths. My husband, Richard, and I have been super cautious about COVID, but the pandemic has taught me some things about independence and interdependence. For sure, it has taught me that even if we stay 6 feet apart, if we spend much time together in the same room, we will be breathing each other's water vapor before long. Yeah, we are so interrelated, interdependent on each other, protecting each other's good health. At the same time, there was a lesson about being independent, staying at home, not going to community gatherings. And it made me realize how much I need community, how much I want to live a life based on interdependency, me and you. So I was surprised when Reverend Linda reached out to me and asked me to do the July 2nd service, because I hadn't been physically in the church for like 3 years. So 2 days before Independence Day, I would be here. The idea about talking about interdependence came instantly to my mind. My quest for inspiration about interdependence took me to a number of different places. How I found interdependence represented in nature, in communities, in science, and in literature. For instance, in the science that tells us of the Big Bang and the expanding universe, and the fact that we are all made of the same substance as stardust. How interdependent is that? And in literature, occasionally, when I read things that are of good quality, which isn't always, you will find lines from other poems being repeated in poems or stories to make that connection between different literatures. But nature comes primarily to my mind. So I confess to you, I am a confirmed nature lover. We depend on the world around us for our very survival, for the air we breathe, the water we drink, and the food we eat. And these things and beings now depend on us to be ever more conscious of our interactions with the natural world. The science is clear. We are experiencing the extinction of species at an alarming rate. What if there were no sharks? So we know that the ocean and sharks are interdependent. The ocean life depends on sharks. Sharks depend on the ocean to live. Additionally, the air we breathe and the water we drink are often no longer healthy. As humans, we had a responsibility for the interdependence with the natural world. Have we shirked that responsibility? At least a little bit? And we can learn from nature if we pay attention. In our second reading this morning, we considered the salmon. She is dependent on an ancient call, the instinctive push of her ancestors and the future generations that are dependent on her making a sacrifice so that they can exist. She does not have a personal to-do list or self-centered priorities that keep her from this obligation to the future. That sense of interdependence with all of life is understood. And this is a different type of interdependence, really. One where we acknowledge the gifts from previous generations that provide traits that we may depend on, and the gifts that we pay forward to future generations we may never know and may never see. thinking forward to the 7th generation. And that generation, 7 generations on, that may depend on something that we do today. And also think about what you may be depending on that was brought by your great, 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 great grandparents from a different land that you never knew and never saw. This is interdependence through time and space. I like to quote Albert Einstein on this. I see him as not just a scientist, but also a mystic. He said, "Every day I remind myself that my inner and outer life are based on the labors of other men, living and dead, and that I must exert myself in order to give in the same measure as I have received and am still receiving." Still receiving, even though it may be a gift from somebody that's long dead. I find that interdependence has a lot to do with generosity. That generosity in giving help and assistance, as well as being generous in accepting help and assistance. Because accepting help is often the more difficult task. Accepting help can be just as much a gift for the giver of the help as for the receiver of the help. It's really easy to say, "Oh, never mind, I don't need help with that. I'm just fine, I'm fine, I'm fine." But you leave a person on the other side feeling bad because they couldn't help. So interdependence goes both ways, generosity of giving help and accepting help. But you really do not have to give in the same measure, as Albert Einstein said in his little quote I read. It just relies on an open heart, willing to expand possibilities. The universe is expanding. Nature is expansive and generous. Should we not be expanding and generous as individuals, as communities, as countries? In normal everyday life, we hardly realize how much we give and receive. It's something to think about at the end of each day. And in 2 days' time, 2 days from now, our country will be celebrating Independence Day, the 4th of July, with freedom fairs celebrating our freedom with fireworks. Yeah, freedom is not the same as liberation. Freedom comes with responsibilities. Yeah, it comes with the recognition of interdependence. Nelson Mandela understood this. He said, "For to be free is not merely to cast off one's chains, but to live in a way that respects and enhances the freedom of others." Martin Luther King Jr. also understood this, and he had some thoughts on the nature of interrelatedness and interdependence in our world. Another quote, "As long as there is poverty in the world, I can never be rich, even if I have $1 billion. As long as diseases are rampant and millions of people in the world cannot expect to live more than 28 or 30 years, I can never be totally healthy, even if I just got a good checkup at the Mayo Clinic. I can never be what I ought to be until you are what you ought to be. This is the way our world is made. No individual or nation can stand out boasting of being independent. We are interdependent." So it's been about 247 years since our country declared independence, freedom from what some call the tyranny of kings. Almost 2.5 centuries later, are we truly independent as a country? Don't we recognize the truly interdependency of all countries of the world? As our country receives requests for humanitarian aid from other countries and provides aid to many of them, instead of criticizing where that money is going, we would do well to remember the words of Franklin D. Roosevelt. He said, "People who are hungry and out of a job are the stuff of which dictatorships are made." Have we seen that in history? I believe we have. Now, enough history. I'd like to change the focus to an individual and his community. I'd like to tell you the story about Charles Mooley, a man whose life illustrates many areas of interdependence. Born in a village in Kenya, he was abandoned by his parents at the age of 6. He survived by begging in the streets, depending on the kindness of strangers to get something to eat. Eventually, by the age of 17, he has made his way to Nairobi, the big city in Kenya. One day, he knocked on the door of a private home and was given work in the garden and performing other domestic chores. His experience of working in the garden led his ability to getting a job on a farm. And on that farm, he met his future wife. Saving money, he developed his own businesses. He was very successful and eventually owned several businesses. Mooley and his wife had 8 children of their own, but remembering his struggle as a 6-year-old on the village streets begging for food, they decided to take in orphans. So they began taking in orphans from the streets. Mooley sold all his property and businesses and dedicated the proceeds to helping street children through rescue, shelter, medical care, and education. Eventually, his family thought he was crazy because we had a good life and you're selling everything, you're taking in all of these street urchins, but they got on board with the plan. And eventually they were responsible for caring for hundreds, maybe thousands of children. A moving story of community building and a future through interdependence. But there's one more side to the story of Charles Mooley that I want to share. Now he bought some land that seemed to be dry, useless land. He was going to build there. And this land was just dry, but he searched for a source of water and he actually discovered a source of water. And so he began planting trees. As the land came back with this introduction of trees, more trees and more plants grew. Eventually, Mooley grew crops and was able to feed thousands of people. My favorite part of this story is this interdependence with the earth, finding water to bring the earth back to life. Mooley's foundation, because he now has a foundation that he built out of all of those businesses he sold, now promotes environmental conservation and the use of renewable energy and mitigating the effects of climate change with water harvesting, tree planting, and other green energy initiatives. His foundation is now the #1 employer in his district and the only source of clean, drinkable water. Recently, due to the drought situation, they have provided daily lunches for 28,000 children in 70 different community schools. So this all started because a 6-year-old begging for food on the streets of a village developed a sense of interdependence with others and the earth. I know how much I am dependent on the earth for my survival, but what small or large ways can I give back that gift to the earth? I hope you also found this story inspirational. We came across this story about Charles Moley because we were planning a trip to Kenya. My desire when visiting different places and different cultures is that we remember our interdependence and leave something behind in exchange for the experiences we take away. Years ago, when we went to India, we were encouraged to bring school supplies for the children of a village school. Our takeaway from that encounter was a feeling of goodwill and the bright, happy smiles of the children. An interdependent relationship does not have to be equal. We got much more than we gave in that exchange in India. So, the ultimate fruit of interdependence is building stronger individuals, stronger communities, and even a stronger country. I feel that Charles Moley's story illustrates this well. Many of our readings and hymns this morning speak to building communities to work toward collective liberation of all, sharing our gifts through interdependence to build a brighter future. In the opening words, we heard that gathering together grows courage, not just in ourselves or in our group, but by example for others. It is no small thing, this coming together. Never underestimate the effects. Having an impact on others and the world that we may or may not see or know about. And know that the brave actions of others may have an influence on you, even if you don't know it. Interdependence. Then, in our gathering hymn, we sang about pledging ourselves greater understanding to greater service, building a new community. That greater understanding is the give and take for which we depend when there are differences between individuals. I'll mention differences again in a minute. Then, in our first reading, we hear that it takes a reckless sort of dreaming to link arms and claim a call to journey for justice and liberation. We depend on these dreamers to build communities that can reach out to other communities in an ever-widening expanse of understanding and interdependence. I think all of the readings and hymns this morning are a good follow-up to last Sunday's service broadcast from General Assembly in Pittsburgh, where Reverend Nancy McDonald Ladd, after describing her basic appearance in the name of accessibility for the vision impaired, continued to explain that what was most important to know about her was that she was a colleague, a friend, in relationship with other humans, other co-religionists working in community to build a better world, building teams that matter so much more than what we can accomplish alone. I want to be able to describe myself as a human being in relationship with other human beings and with nature, learning, growing, giving, and receiving, overcoming differences in a true sense of interdependence. And I want to see teams full of individuals with that same goal. And a community made up of teams like that. And countries made up of communities like that. And a world of countries like that. Does that make me a reckless dreamer? Perhaps. But dreams become reality only through linking arms with others. Toward that end, I would like to close with a litany of restoration by Marjorie Bowen-Sweetley. It's called a litany of restoration, but I would like to think of it as the litany of interdependence. If, recognizing the interdependence of all life, we strive to build community, the strength we gather will be our salvation. If you are Black and I am white, it will not matter. If you are female and I am male, it will not matter. If you are older and I am younger, it will not matter. If you are progressive and I am conservative, it will not matter. If you are straight and I am gay, it will not matter. If you are Christian and I am Jewish, it will not matter. If we join spirits as brothers and sisters, the pain of our aloneness will be lessened, and that does matter. In that spirit, we build community and move toward restoration. In that spirit, yes, I would substitute interdependence for restoration. But building community is really what we've been talking about this morning. Community through an interdependence that may include all humanity and nature and extends into the past and the future. If any of this has sparked thoughts or ideas for you, I invite you to take a moment in meditation now to set an intention for the following weeks. And now, if you would rise in body or spirit and join in our closing hymn, number 121, We'll Build a Land.
Where we born, we'll build a land where the captives go free, where oil of gladness dissolves the morning. Oh, we'll build a land of promised and peace. Come, build a land where sisters and brothers, anointed by God, may then breathe peace, where justice shall roll down water and
For our closing words, I'm sharing number 692 from your gray hymnal, if you care to know for reference. If here you have found freedom, take it with you into the world. If you have found comfort, go and share it with others. If you have dreamed dreams, help one another that they may come true. If you have known love, give some back in the bruised and hurting world. Go in peace. Now it's time for us to extinguish our chalice. You could join in the words for extinguishing.
Extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
Please gather for our closing blessing song.